Well, just a couple of days after signing Rasmus Dahlin to an extension, Owen Power has signed a 7-year, $58.45 million extension with the Sabres on Wednesday. Power, 4 goals, 31 assists in 79 games last season as a rookie, 20 years old, third in Calder voting behind Stuart Skinner and Matty Beniers. You know what that music means. It's time for me to get off this chair and walk over to that chair. Who's sitting next to that chair? None other than our hockey insider, Darren Dreger, in a beautiful new suit and fantastic new shoes. Buddy, you look like $1 million.
And I wore socks.
Right, unlike some analysts around here. Not mentioning any names.
No.
Hey, how about Kevyn Adams?
Yeah.
Like, this guy just quietly going about his business, signing these deals. And it was funny because when Craig Button and Mike Johnson were on the show the other night, we were speculating at a number for Owen Power. And we thought, well, the Dahlin number came in a little higher than we thought. Maybe this number comes in a little lower than we thought. But the key for both these defensemen is you're locking up the prime years of their careers here.
Well, that's key for the players, no question about that. But when you watch and look at the Ottawa or the Buffalo Sabres and how they're designed, that's what they're built around. We can see the talent that they're assembling up front, but that blue line is going to be formidable for a number of years. And I would agree with the consensus that the Dahlin number was higher than most expected. But Owen Power, who is just developing into that big, strong, sturdy, reliable defenseman, I think that's more than fair value for this kid because he's going to be part of, again, the foundation of what the Buffalo Sabres are going to be. And, Jay, you know this. You watch a ton of hockey. They're not that far away from being a really, really good team.
Very much a sexy pick to potentially make the leap this year. We'll see if it happens. But remarkable stuff, you know, from Kevyn Adams, a guy who has taken a lot of heat, a lot of criticism during the Jack Eichel era and just quietly goes about his business. And now a lot of the deals that he did sign, like Tage Thompson's deal, look absolutely incredible.
They do. He's a very hands-on general manager. And what I mean by that, it's a bit new age. And I talked about this earlier in the week on Insider Trading. And it's not cutting edge, but when I say hands-on, use the Dahlin situation as an example. Kevyn Adams had multiple face-to-face meetings with Dahlin before hammering out the nuance of that deal. No, he's not negotiating term or dollars with Rasmus Dahlin or with Owen Power, but he wants to make sure that the players, these young, again, the nucleus of his team, are aligned and ready for the future, which looks incredibly bright.
Let's talk about the Ottawa Senators. They start the season without Shane Pinto. It's hard to believe he's still without a contract. Our colleague Bruce Garriock reporting that Pinto is skating in Ottawa. So does that mean there's potential for a deal here?
There's definitely potential, and this has less to do about the agent, in this case Louis Gross, and general manager Pierre Dorion hammering out a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that took some time, right? Negotiations take some time. This has everything to do, Jay, about the lack of cap space.
Yeah.
The Ottawa Senators just don't have it. And the critics of Pierre Dorion are asking why, and appreciably are asking why. You look at Vladimir Tarasenko, the veteran forward who they brought in, you know, to some degree thinking was to replace Alex DeBrincat, who's now at the Detroit Red Wings. But you essentially had all summer to generate the cap space required to make sure that Shane Pinto wasn't going to miss any time.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the deals that Kevyn Adams and the Buffalo Sabres worked out. You know, we're not talking about a multi-year, several $million per year deal. You know, Shane Pinto is going to come in on a bridge deal, probably at 2.5.
Yeah.
And now that puts a ton of pressure on DJ Smith, the head coach, and the coaching staff, because the expectations in Ottawa deservedly are through the roof.
Yep.
They needed a big start. Tough game to open up against the Carolina Hurricanes, but they got to get that boardroom work done. Pinto needs to get on the ice.
And without Josh Norris, it's an even more dire situation. This Conor Garland thing is fascinating to me. You know, I thought when he was acquired by the Canucks, he was such a great fit, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't worked out, despite the fact that he actually opened the scoring for the Canucks against Edmonton on Wednesday night. He's asked his new agent, Judd Moldaver. Boy, Judd Moldaver is just on a hot streak right now.
He's got a pretty good pool. He does.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
McDavid, Matthews, now Garland. So Moldaver trying to find a trade for his client. Are there teams interested? He's only 27 years old, a lot of speed. Are teams interested?
There would be interest, but what's the retention of the salary? Is there a sweetener required by the Vancouver Canucks to make this happen? Because, look, Conor Garland makes a lot of money. Some have concerns with his stature. He's not a big player, but as we can see, to start the year, he can be a productive ad. So, yes, there would be interest. Because Judd Moldaver is the new agent for Conor Garland, automatically I'm drawn to the Nashville Predators because he has Roman Josi, he has some key players around the NHL. But again, how much are the Vancouver Canucks willing to retain? And just full disclosure here, Conor Garland's name has been out there on the trade front for a long, long time. And Vancouver just hasn't found the right fit. So it appears they're ready to maybe do a little bit extra to make it work.
Good luck, Judd. We're counting on you, buddy. Kevin Cheveldayoff, this guy, I mean, you talk about Kevyn Adams quietly going about his business. Kevin Cheveldayoff is like an assassin.
Yeah.
You never hear any information coming out about this guy. Maybe a little from you, but almost none. And then here he goes. He signs Scheifele and Hellebuck to these 7-year extensions when we thought these guys might be out the door. Can you just take us a little bit, though, into the process of how this all came about? Was it something that maybe was in the works before training camp, or did they come into camp and start to feel like, no, maybe we do want to be here?
No, it was in the works, for sure. I mean, Cheveldayoff would have had a number of different conversations with the agents representing both Scheifele and Hellebuck. And, you know, there was interest from both sides to make sure that they kept that dialogue going. So when training camp opens, Cheveldayoff, not unlike Kevyn Adams, he meets with Connor Hellebuck and, you know, kind of aligns for what he's thinking. He meets with Mark Scheifele during training camp. Again, make sure that he's on board for what would be a long-term future in Winnipeg. Now, the difference here is that Cheveldayoff has been with these two players the entire way, right? So this matters. But what was most important was making sure that both these guys were on side, because there was so much speculation throughout the offseason, going into the final year. Cheveldayoff for sure would have investigated the trade market for Connor Hellebuck and Mark Scheifele. But when you're dealing a top forward and a Vezina Trophy winner, you can't miss.
Yeah.
You can't lose on that deal. And there were teams that expressed interest, but they had some concerns with what the extension money would look like. So this is terrific work by the Winnipeg Jets to get these two pieces locked down long term, because they're in it to win it now. And it absolutely kills a narrative out there.
Yeah.
That players don't want to extend and stay in Winnipeg. Of course they do.
Yes.
Because they know that there's support there and they can win.
Yes, absolutely. I like that you said that. Yeah. Patrick Kane, another free agent, continues to work out. CAA putting out their videos. Just perfect marketing strategy from Patty Brisson.
Okay.
So Dregs, who's shown interest in the superstar forward?
Geez, we're giving the Buffalo Sabres and Kevyn Adams a ton of love here, aren't we? We're giving them a ton of love. For sure, there's been interest expressed. I checked with Pat Brisson earlier today. Shockingly, he didn't tip me off on Owen Power, so we're going to have a conversation.
Oh, man.
I was, in fact, asking about Patty Kane and whether or not there have been conversations with clubs, whether or not the interview process has started. And the answer to those questions, no, that hasn't started yet. Buffalo for sure is interested. The Carolina Hurricanes, it feels like they could use a little bit more pop up front.
Sure.
This guy is healthy. He is a proven winner. Undoubtedly, there are going to be a number of teams. Maybe Colorado enters the fray.
Wow.
There'll be some big-time clubs showing interest in the near future.
I mean, you mentioned Colorado, Carolina. Those seem like great fits from a hockey perspective, but for him to go home to Buffalo would be kind of cool. Okay, before we let you go, Dregs, you've been so generous with your time, but we do have one final segment. All of your animal dreams unfurled. We're talking Darren Dreger, Safari World. What a tune. What a tune.
It's the main reason I come on the show.
Well, and we appreciate it. It's the only the only shows of the year my wife watches are the ones you do Safari World on. So what do you have for us today, Darren Dreger?
Well, I'm going to take you back to the Cabbage, and that's my lake property in Manitoba. And the reason we call it a cabbage is, of course, we live in Ontario. They call them cottages.
Yeah.
Out west, as you would know, they call them cabins. So it's a hybrid cabin, cottage, cabbage.
I like that.
My
That's
wife
going to catch on.
Yeah, my wife and I, Holly, were doing some staining staying the stairs going down to the second tier of our property, which is a grassy area, a little bit of shrub and bush, all that kind of stuff. I walk up the stairs. She's painting at the bottom with her back to the grassy tier. And I turn around just to look, and there's a black bear.
Oh, my God.
Standing 10 feet from my lovely wife.
Oh, my God.
Standing right beside her, and I'm like, Holly, get in the cabin right now. And she thought there was like a garter snake or something. I said, get in the... I was probably a little bit more
Maybe a bit
fired up
belligerent.
than that.
Sure, yeah.
I'm like, get in the cabin right now. So she went buzzing by me. I literally clapped my hand because the bear wasn't moving. And then it realized that I'm standing there, and it took off into the forest.
Oh, yikes.
Too close. I'll tell you what.
That is really frightening.
If that bear was a meat eater, we were in trouble.
Yeah, no kidding. Or if that was a cub and the mama was close by.
Yeah. I had too many bear encounters this year, but that was the closest encounter.
You had multiple bear encounters?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dregs, should you maybe stay out of the cabbage? You can't stay out of the
Evidently.
cabbage.
No,
You
I
can't miss out of the cabbage. Hey, listen, thanks for joining us, pal. You were awesome today.
Always fun.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, Canada's most popular sports television segment. You know it as the Onrights and Rum.